Hey everybody, hi, Anthony Nitz here. Hey, thanks so much for joining us for this presentation. I think that you will find some great value in it, especially if you're a small to medium-sized business. This is something you definitely want to know about the SuperLeads program. But let's do a little bit of housekeeping first. Most video sources, they have a full screen mode, and so I suggest that you use it. Somewhere on the video player, there's a button that allows the video to expand into a full screen. I have people tell me, Anthony, I can't see your stuff. And if you do it to full screen, you should have no problem whatever. Just sit back, take some notes, relax, and hopefully you'll enjoy this. Who am I? My name's Anthony Nitz, and I've run several businesses over the last 18 years. I've run some multi-million-dollar businesses and have done very well in that respect. I have been using and specializing in internet marketing for small businesses. What I mean by that is that I help small businesses utilize the internet to market their business, as opposed to helping businesses suddenly become internet marketers. There is a difference, and I have a clear line between the two. So, also consult on marketing and real estate projects from time to time as needed, and I've been doing that for a long time. I've been background in real estate for a lot of years, but I've always been doing marketing and advertising. It's what I love to do. So, one of the things in 18 years that as a business owner, I realized was that I was spending most of my time managing advertising campaigns. That's what I spent most of my time doing. I did not go into business to be a media placement or advertising management consultant or rep. I went into business to do what I do and what I do well. But it seems that in the quest to continue to do the job of getting new clients in the door, I was literally spending a few hours a day, because it doesn't all get done at the same time. It's not like one day I can do all of my advertising and then not worry about it for the rest of the month. No, they all come at different times and dealing with different people and different vendors and different services. And so, boy, what a task that was. And so what I wasn't doing was I wasn't servicing my clients. And really what I mean by that was that I wasn't servicing as many clients as I should have been servicing. I had to extend the hours of my day in order to accomplish these goals of getting the marketing and advertising stuff taken care of, along with other things. My clients were very well taken care of, but it takes a toll on you when you're spending a lot of hours doing all this stuff. So I said to myself, well, gosh, there just has to be a solution. And well, much to my surprise, well, not really, there was a solution. There's a few solutions, actually. And the first one, option number one, I could hire a Madison Avenue advertising agency, spend $10,000 to $100,000 per month. And I don't know if you ever called one of these companies, but if you tell them you've got a budget of $10,000 per month to spend, you might not even get a phone call back, because they deal with the Coca Colas of the world and the Johnsons and Johnsons and big business like that. So that's kind of a tough option to take, unless if you've really made it and you got that money to spend. Well, then I commend you for it. Option number two, well, you could retain a PR firm and have them try and find what works for you. Have them do a little bit of meeting other people and introducing you to the right connections and that sort of thing. That's a good thing if you can do that. And I used a PR firm. I was paying about $5,000 a month on a retainer for this PR firm, and they did some wonderful things. They get us some wonderful exposure. But when they find something that works, let's say that they find a direct mail campaign that they think is really going to help you out a lot, usually they do a good job of justifying it. But the $5,000 a month that I'm spending on the firm did not include the cost of the postage and the printing for the direct mail campaign. So that's kind of a tough option to go with as well. Both of those in and of themselves are great services. If you're in a position where you can use those services, then you probably don't need what I'm having to offer, just being honest with you here. The other option, of course, is that, and a lot of business owners, what we do is we hire somebody, we hire a marketing specialist to provide them with benefits, workers' comp, computer equipment, cell phone, desk space, sick days, and so on. Really, how much does it cost you every single month to have this person working in your office, and what are the results that you're getting out of it? I know for me, at any given time, we would have up to 10 employees, and I know what they cost me, and they cost me a lot to have those employees there. Of course, they perform their function, but again, unless you've got a lot of money to spend on having that, that's kind of a tough way to go. We're dealing with mostly small, medium-sized businesses, and some of these options are just not viable. Option number 4, of course, we've all kind of fallen victim to this one, and we can't help it. We're just good-natured people, right? We have a friend or a family member or neighbor who is out of luck. They got laid off, something happened, they need a job, they need some income, they can't pay their bills. And in the goodness of our hearts, we say, hey, come to work with us. You know a little bit about graphic design. You can work on my postcards for me. And you think, oh, this is great, I'm delegating this out. The reality is in most cases, they should be nowhere near advertising and marketing. I take the position that they could definitely cost you millions if you're not careful. Better just having a great marketing campaign yourself and paying their bills for them when you're making money. You might be better off doing it that way, because they take away instead of add a lot of times. Option 5. Well, this is kind of the final option, of course, and what we all tend to go back. Nobody can do it as well as we can, right? So we go back to doing it ourselves. And of course, this affects us in our health when we're spending 12, 16 hours a day working. Family, finances, all those things that can affect us. When we're doing a $15 to $30 an hour job, but our actual dollar per hour value is in the $100 or $200 an hour range, then we're just spending our time doing the wrong things. So I had to ask myself, what's the purpose of advertising? And the first and foremost, numero uno, number one thing that came up was to get new business. I mean, pure and simple. We all know this, right? This is the purpose of advertising, is to get new business. And there's some underlying purposes as well. And like for branding, for me, branding was important with respect to the post-awareness activity aspect of it. That's something we talk about in another presentation. But the branding element, that's important. We want people to remember us. And then finally, to protect my existing relationships with my clients. When somebody I haven't dealt with maybe for a year or 2 years, things change and they suddenly go, hey, I need Anthony. I need to make sure that I can be found in the various different mediums that are available right away, immediately. Because if they can't find me right away, they will go somewhere else. And then when I finally do get in touch with them, they go, oh gosh, we're using this other service. And I say, why didn't you call? We couldn't find you. You know how that works. So those are kind of the goals of advertising. And let's look at the definition of advertising by dictionary.com. The act or practice of calling public attention to one's product, service, need, etc., especially by paid announcements in newspapers and magazines, over radio or television, on billboards, and to get more customers by advertising. Well, that's kind of the crystal clear definition of advertising, to call public attention to our product and service. There's one thing that they forgot, though. They forgot the element of the fact that it's supposed to return a profit over and above the money spent to run the advertising. This is a key factor. In other words, advertising should be an investment and not an expense. My utility bills, that's an expense. My insurance, the furniture in the office, those are expenses, right? Those are not going to generate income for my business. But advertising should always give me a return on my investment. I should always expect it every single time. I have to make a comment on this, is that I am actually surprised when I go into a lot of businesses. You would be surprised how many businesses I go to and they say, I never really thought of it that way. They always just did advertising because they knew they had to. They had to do it. And so they did it, sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't, and it was a pain, and they hated it. And this is why a lot of people say, "Oh, advertising doesn't work," because they didn't understand what the goal was supposed to be for advertising. So, for those of you who didn't get that, well, great, now you got it now. I went back and I looked and I said, okay, I got to get new business, and I tracked everything meticulously. Let me tell you how meticulous I was in my tracking. I would track all the way down to the difference between if I sent out a postcard that had a blue background and a postcard that had a red background. I wanted to know which one produced the best results, because that's the one I was going to use the most. So in that sense, yeah, I tracked all of these Google ad newspapers, the direct mail, yellow pages, I mean all this stuff. I've tracked it all, and I got to know really well what works and what doesn't work for me. But in the end of the day, I asked myself, did I really care which one it came from? Did the buyers that came from the Google ads, did they have any more value than the buyers that came from yellow pages? Did the buyers that came from my website have any more value than the people who came from direct mail? And the answer was pretty much no. Pretty much no. They were all about the same. And so in that respect, did I really care which medium that they came from? And clearly the answer was no. I didn't care where they came from as long as they were getting in the door. But I still had to spend all this time managing all these campaigns just to kind of keep them coming in the door. So then why do a lot of people use all of these different things? Well, we see other people doing it, so it must work, right? Have a client who he put an ad in a magazine and was getting nothing out of it. And I asked him, I said, well, why are you putting an ad in the magazine if you're not getting anything out of it? He said, well, one of my competitors is in there, and he is in there on every single publication. If they're successful and they're advertising there, well, then they must be doing something right. Well, come to find out, the executive editor for that magazine happened to be the wife of the owner of my client's competitor. And so there were definitely some perks there. They're getting some really, really cheap advertising, kind of almost one of those things where you go, I'd be stupid not to, right? But my client didn't know that, and he ended up spending a lot of money on advertising that really didn't work because he saw somebody else was doing it, thought it must work. It sounds or looked very hip or trendy, and my clients are surely go there. There's a lot of publications that, these free magazines or other publications that are laying around that really, they have about the shelf life of the time it takes for me to eat my lunch, provided I don't have anybody with me. So that, or if I'm sitting in the lobby of the hair salon waiting to get my hair cut and waiting for somebody to call my name, that's about the shelf life of these products. But people spend a lot of money advertising in these publications because they're trendy and hip, and they're kind of up on what's happening on the local scene and all that stuff, which is all cool, but there's no real distribution to these things. Other people in other businesses recommended something. I have another client, they asked him, I said, well, why are you advertising there? He was a plumber. He said, well, I have a part of a networking group. There's a CPA that's in this networking group, and the CPA told me, man, I am just killing it in this one medium. And so you got to do it too. Well, as it turns out, that's a great medium for CPAs, horrible for plumbers. It just didn't make any sense to do, but other people recommend it, so we do it sometimes. And also, this is one we tried it before, and it actually had some success, but we really kind of weren't sure why. We sent out a batch of postcards, and for whatever reason, we got a great response. But then we tried it again. Well, it didn't work so well that time. But we're going to go back to it again because it had a great response. What was the reason why? We didn't know the reason why, and so we just keep trying to do this, the same thing over and over. And unfortunately, a lot of times when these are the reasons you're doing stuff, it's going to fail. There's other reasons too. We can go all day long with this. But more often, it's not because we have actually been given rock solid proof that it works. No, usually we're given a beautiful media package full of a bunch of fluff, and boy, it sure sounds good, so we might as well give it a try. We've meticulously tracked the results from a prior campaign? No, not usually. I have to tell you, in the last year, I can only count 2 businesses who actively were tracking their advertising beyond asking, so how did you hear about us? That's not really tracking. That's just kind of getting a feel, right? I told you how deep I tracked my advertising. So now I need to ask myself, well, what's the value of a lead? What is the value of a lead? What my average price point was, I kind of could take that, and then I figured out, gee, out of every 10 calls that I get from new prospects, how many end up as paying customers? And I knew those numbers. Based on that, I could figure out over 18 years, what is the lifetime value of a new client? Every client, I knew how much they spent, and I could come up with that conclusion as well. And based on that, I could say, gee, what is the value of that client? What is the value of, what would I pay to have that person call me all the time, right? So some of the ways that you can try and figure this out is you can kind of guesstimate how much your ideal customer will buy from you during your entire buyer-seller relationship, right? Once you make a connection with somebody, because the hardest part is just getting them to call you. Once they call you and you get a relationship, you can keep them for a long time. And then you guess how much business each client will refer to you over the next several years. If you have these numbers, then again, I commend you. I think there's too many business owners who do not have these numbers, and it's something you really should start paying attention to right now. So lifetime value. Here's kind of an idea of how it might work. You get a new client, and let's say that they spend $600 a year for your service. Well, they refer 3 new clients, and those guys are at $600 a year because you know that your average client over a long period of time spends $600 a year, right? And then they refer 3 people. So now you got 13, off of this one client, including them, you got 13 people who are using your service, spending $600 a year. So this new client that started at the very top, is generating for you $7,800 per year. 600 times 13, $7,800, right? So if the average lifetime of this client is 5 years, if they stick with you for 5 years, and you figure this out, $7,800 times 5, that client is worth $39,000 to you over the period of 5 years. That's reasonable to expect, right? And it's, this is pretty much obviously a very simple representation, but it could go much deeper than that. It could go, it could be, not as deep as that. I don't know. It depends on the service you provide. You plug in your own numbers and see how it works out for you. But using that as a base, what's the value of a $39,000 lead? Would you pay half of the value, half of the $39,000? I mean, I know stockbrokers will tell you if you double your money, you're in good business. You're in good shape. Would you pay 25%, right? That's, I don't know, 10%, $3,900. If I came to you and said, hey, I've got a $39,000 client, they're going to bring you $39,000 over the next 5 years. Would you pay me a check for $3,900? Well, how about 1%? Would you pay me $390? I mean, that's reasonable. That is a reasonable expectation to say, $390 for somebody who's going to be worth $39,000 over the years. Okay, what if it was less than that? What if it was only $39? I mean, that would just be silly, right? That'd be almost ridiculous. Well, we can talk about the value of those leads later. It depends on your closing ratio also. When you are only closing 1 out of every 10 calls, well, then, you're probably not willing to pay such a high cost per lead. When you're closing 8 out of every 10 calls, then, hey, you're making some money, right? And it's worth hanging on to those leads at whatever the cost is. We'll use, just 5, again, as a basis, just to kind of keep it right in the middle. And if you close 5 out of every 10 calls that you get, that would equal $195,000 in lifetime value of the clients. Again, remember that one client, their lifetime value was $39,000. Well, now you have 5 of those. It's $195,000. So if the lead cost $3,900 each, or $39,000 for you to get $195,000, would that be worth it? How about if it only costs $390 for each lead? Again, 10 calls. You pay $3,900 and you get $195,000 worth of lifetime value out of those clients. That's a pretty darn good trade-off right there, I think. Or $39 a piece. Again, you get 10 calls, you close 5 of them, and each one of those is worth $39,000. So 39,000 times 5 is $195,000 for $390. Yeah, that's a pretty good deal right there. That is a pretty good deal right there. Okay, so now how do I, when I'm working with a client, I say, okay, how do I really determine what the value of a lead is for a client? What's fair to charge a client for a lead, right? And one of the ways I do that is I look at what people are paying on a cost per click basis on online advertising. And so, we're looking at, the cost per click. And look at this guy right here. Loan consolidation student loans right here, up here, right? Paying $53.64 per click. Now, a click is not the same as a lead. A click is just getting somebody to get to your website. Once they get to your website, now you have to convert them into a lead by getting them to pick up the phone and call or send you an email or make some other inquiry, right? So I use a ratio of 10 to 1. Okay? For every 10 clicks is the equivalent of 1 lead. And I think this is a reasonable to say for every 10 clicks is 1 lead. Loan consolidation, student loans, $53. So if that's the case, then they are paying $536 per lead that they get, because they get 10 clicks, right? $536. Is your lead worth $536? I don't know. Maybe it is. These guys, when they close the deal, they probably get, they're probably making 20 grand on the deal. So for them, $500 is no sweat for them, right? And then I look at some other ones. I say, well, what about, like plumbers? Okay, so up here, sewer line repair, $10.14. Emergency plumbing service, $10.46. $8.15, $9.48. So for this trenchless sewer repair here, they're paying, 10 clicks. They're paying $94 to get that lead. Okay. Look at this one here, copper repipe specialist. Okay, $41 or $417 for 1 lead. Attorneys, look at these guys, $22.57, $46.76, $53.28 for car accident lawyer Los Angeles. This is what these guys are paying to get somebody to click on their website. Okay, $53, or in other words, $532. Do you think that when they convert a client that they're not making 50 grand on the deal or something like that? I don't know. I don't know what they make, but they are making some big money. So for them, paying $532 is a good deal. $42.71 for automobile accident. Flowers, look at for next day delivery, $10.26. Floral delivery, $6. So $63 for that lead right there. Order flowers online, $71.90 for that lead right there. To say, hey, I know that this person, they're only buying flowers today, and maybe they're only even spending $50, But guess what? They've got to come back for Mother's Day and for birthdays and for anniversaries and for weddings and for funerals and all that other stuff. The lifetime value of that client is pretty high. What about the local restaurants? You know, there's some little stuff. I pulled up a little local restaurant, and they're paying, you know, to use this company's name as a keyword, $5.16, or they're paying $51 per lead. Every 10 clicks equals one lead. $51 to get me into the door. Now my bill may only be $50 when I go to that restaurant, but guess what? I go back, and you know, this restaurant I'm thinking about, I've probably been back at least 20 times. They've made their money back off of me. Dry cleaners, I only pay $1.50 to have my shirts cleaned. So, but they're willing to pay $60, $60 for a lead. Well, guess what? I now, you know, I spend on average probably about $60 a month, and I've been with the same dry cleaner for 8 years. So you do the math: 60 times 12 months times 8 years. You know, what's the value of my service, of me being a client to them? Doggy door, mailboxes being installed by handyman, you know, again, $60. They know they're going to go back and do more business later down the road. So this is kind of how I come up with it. It's not a scientific approach, but it's a good start. It's a good place to kind of get an idea of what people are willing to pay for that, lead. So let's talk about SuperLeads. What is SuperLeads? SuperLeads is a pay for performance model that lets you pay for the leads that you get from your marketing programs. You don't have to advertise in any magazines and hope. You don't say, sure, let me spend thousands of dollars to put an ad in and hope that you're going to get calls out of it. No, you pay and you get the number of leads that you specify. This is we've tested and can predict certain consumer buying habits at the local level. In other words, we know where the business is coming from. Look at auto mechanics. Auto mechanics, they're getting their business from, you know, direct mail and coupons mostly. They're also getting some of their business through Yellow Pages. Look at attorneys. Look at attorneys right here. These guys are getting a ton of business from the Yellow Pages. Well, what about apartments, right? Apartment rental. They're getting most of their business out of online internet services and from newspapers, right? Auto renting and leasing. 45% of their business comes from the internet. Okay, so we know where the buyers are coming from. We've been tracking this and studying this and following this for years. Folks, I can help you get the right message out at the right time in front of the right consumers, because I know where your active buyers are. And I can drive them to your business, whether it's online in the Yellow Pages or through direct mail. Again, who cares where it's coming from? The value of the client is going to be the same across most of those mediums, right? So what difference does it make? Little disclaimer thing here. Let's see. We cannot guarantee leads for every client in every market if the demand and predictability is not there, so space is limited. Okay, basically what that means is that even our bucket can hold so many leads. Now, we generate millions of leads across the country every year. But if every electrician called me today and said, hey, Anthony, this is the deal I want in, I need to get this running right now, you know what, I'd only be able to take a certain number of them. So space is limited. If you think that this is something that might interest you, you at least want to learn more about it, you need to call me, and you need to call me right away before your category gets taken up. In this plan, you select how many leads you desire over the 12 months that you're advertising in the program. You say, I want 50 leads a year, 100 leads a year, 1,000 leads per year. You specify, you tell us, and then that campaign is built around that and managed by professional media management consultants who will make sure that you get those leads, right? The burden is on us. There's value associated with the number of leads you select in the category your business is in. You're wondering what the price is. Well, it's based on your category and how many leads you want. So again, that's something you do need to call and ask me about. But I think you will be happily surprised at how affordable this really is. As your media consultant, I'll provide you with my expertise in developing solid ad campaigns across the many media that we offer to deliver a program that meets your expectations. What is a lead? Let's be clear about this too. A lead is calculated every one call that you get from one of our advertising campaigns. Every 10 clicks you get, this is the 10-to-1 ratio, right? Every 10 clicks you get is the equivalent of one lead from one of our online generated campaigns. And same thing, emails. Every email you get from our campaign, every online form submission you get from our campaign. We have ways of tracking all of this, and we can go into great detail about that so that you know how your clicks or leads are being calculated. And going back to in the beginning when I was telling you, I spent most of my time managing all of this advertising and marketing, and what a hassle it was. And I was able to service fewer clients. Well, that is kind of taking a little switch now. We're getting back to servicing more clients, letting somebody else take care of getting the phone to ring and getting those leads in the door. And that's what this program is all about. All you have to do is you got to decide, how many leads do I want? How many do I want? 50, 100, 500, 1,000, I don't know, whatever it is. Give me a call. Let's discuss it further. There's, of course, no obligation. There's no pressure. Let's find something that makes sense for you. Or you can send me an email, of course. Or, you know what, you could just do nothing. End of this video, just turn it off. Go back to doing what you were doing before. That's perfectly fine, too. If the SuperLeads program isn't something that you're not ready for yet, well, that's okay. My job is to help you find things that do work. I'm a media consultant. I will come to your office. I'll sit down with you. I'll review your marketing program. If what we have works, great. If it doesn't work, no problem. Guess what? We both got some new ideas. We shake hands. We're friends. We're on our way, right? Here's a couple bonuses that you get when you do call me. When I come visit you, I'm going to bring to you a copy of the AIM report identifying the largest source of business in your category. So you don't have to guess anymore. We've already done the studies, the reports. We already know that a certain amount of traffic comes from certain places. And this is a good gauge for you to decide where to spend your advertising dollars. I'm going to give you a copy of my ROI calculator for advertising, so that you know that when you are advertising, you can start seeing, am I getting a return on my investment? Of course, you get the ability to call Anthony and pick his brain for free all the time. I'm just throwing that in because I love what I do, and I love to help and share with people. Also, I'm going to give you access to, if you have a website, I'm going to give you access to the tool that I used to increase my website conversions by 467%. 467% increase in conversion. So that 10-to-1 ratio goes out the window. It becomes more like a 3-to-1 ratio when you start using this tool. So I'm going to give you access to that as well. Folks, you get to decide. Mentor, trainer of mine once took me into a room, and we walked through this one door and went into the middle of the room. He stood up on a chair in the middle of the room, and he said, Anthony, turn around and look at that door that we just came through. That's the door that represents the old way that it was done, how things were done before. And if you look on the other side of the room, there's a new door. And you can decide to either go back through the old door and continue to do it the way that it was done before, where you're managing your own advertising and marketing campaigns until all hours of the evenings, or you can at least walk through this door with me and explore the options that are available to you. It's that simple. You get to decide. So give me a call, send me an email. Thank you very much. Have a great